Hey makeup friends! So a little while ago I posted on both Instagram and YouTube saying, ask me some questions for a Get Ready With Me. And you guys didn't disappoint, you left me quite a few questions. So today, let's do that. We're gonna play with a few new items in my collection. I'm gonna give you very brief little snippets of information about them, but for the most part, this is just gonna be a chit chat, get ready with me, playing with some new makeup and answering your questions. So let's get right into it. All right, we are just going to dive straight into it today, no preamble, so I'll just say now, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, then hello, my name is Kara, welcome. We do not take ourselves too seriously here, so if you like a chilled back vibe when it comes to makeup, this is the place for you. So if you haven't subscribed already and you enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and do so. I also encourage everybody to turn the bell notifications on because I do not have an upload schedule whatsoever. So we just fly by the seat of our pants over here. Okay, I have all the questions in front of me that you guys submitted, so thank you for doing that. I suspect this video is going to be rather lengthy, so let's just dive straight in. I will list all the products that I'm using on my face down below, but a lot of these are ones that I haven't talked about already. So unless I find myself getting too distracted, I will mention them very briefly. So first up for primer, we're going to go in with the Professional Light Primer. It is very blurring, but not as heavy as the original Professional. So I prefer this one to the original. So let's start off with a easy question. And that is, what have you been watching on Netflix or other streaming services lately? Anything good? Anything to avoid? Because it's winter, Barry and I are actually watching a fair amount of television. During the summer, I don't tend to watch as much because there's just so much to do outside. And I don't like to waste the summer in front of the TV. But it's been bloody cold for ages here, so bundling up and getting nice and snuggly on the couch has been definitely in order. We just started We Are All Dead last night. That's on Netflix. And I believe it's a Korean video or Korean series, but it is dubbed in English. And so far, I mean, we've only watched one episode, but I am hooked. I don't know what they're going to do with 11 more episodes of it, but I'm hooked and I'm ready to see. We just finished, we watched 100 Humans, which was kind of an interesting concept. We found it really interesting. There's been like mixed reviews about it, but we found it interesting. And what else have we watched lately? We tried watching Midnight Mass. Couldn't get into it. We also recently watched School of Chocolate, which it was fascinating. Like, I enjoy cooking shows. This wasn't even about cooking so much as it was about art, using chocolate as the medium. I just, like, we sat there, we were mind blown at the creation that these people could make. Like, it was just incredible. So very, very interesting to watch without that, like, you know, that like Master Chef element where they just basically berate people because they haven't performed as well as a professional chef would. There was none of that in this. So it was really, really interesting. Like, there was no eliminations. It was just about them learning and progressing, and then they do announce a winner at the end, but people don't get eliminated. So you're still seeing all of that creativity throughout the entire season. Really, really interesting. Highly recommend it. Okay, we're gonna go on to foundation, and the one I have here is a new one from L'Oreal. It's not technically a foundation. It's their Skin Paradise Water Infused Tinted Moisturizer. And I have it in Light 02, and I find that it's a little bit deep for me. This was like their second, I mean, it's shade 2, so I think it's the second lightest that they have, and even at that, it's still a little deep for my skin, but because it is a lighter coverage product, I can make it work just by blending it out. But you see, like, it's not terrible. At least the undertone is there for me, but I prefer when products have names that are like light golden, light cool, light warm, things like that, but also when light is actually light. But like, see, it's really strong with the gold in there too. If I didn't have as yellow of an undertone, this would be kind of brutal on me, and they didn't have, that I recall seeing anyways, they didn't have any distinction on that like cool and warm side of things, which L'Oreal usually does, but not this time. So we're gonna have to blend and blend just to make sure that it's not like, here's my tanned face and the rest of me is definitely not. Also, it has a relatively strong floral scent to it, so just be aware of that. So let's go on to another question then, and it is, if I could only have one food, movie, and drink, what would they be? And that is obviously a very, very difficult question to answer. Okay, movie is probably the easiest one for me, and even at that, I'd hate to only have one movie to choose from, but Christmas Vacation, I mean, that movie has made me laugh consistently for 30 years at this point. I think that was around when I started watching it, so that is one that is an annual tradition at Christmas time, and life just wouldn't be the same without it. It is one that I hope they never remake because you just can't top the original. It's just so chaotic and so ridiculous that it's just perfect as it is. For food, that is so much harder. You know, a while ago I would have said pizza and it would have been a very, very easy answer, but I don't find, I mean, I enjoy pizza, don't get me wrong, I don't want to do without it, but more often than not, I would take a burrito bowl over pizza. I love burrito bowls. So even though that's basically a hodgepodge of a bunch of different foods, that's the answer I'm going to go with, is burrito bowl. And then for drinks, I mean, I'd have to say water, I guess, because that's the thing that I drink the most of and most consistently. But if I was to break it down into categories, the pop that I would go for would be Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. I don't really care between the two of them. Diet Coke has just like a tiny bit of an edge on Diet Pepsi for me, but they're largely interchangeable in my mind. If it was, I could only keep one juice, Diet Pink Cranberry, unless there is such a beast as Diet Pineapple Juice, which I've never seen, but if there was, sign me up. And if it was only alcohol, I'd have to just go with vodka because then I can create other drinks with it. I'm not the one who just like sips on vodka. I just can't do that. But I could mix it with the cranberry or whatever. So those would be the things that I would keep if I could only choose one. I don't know, it's looking better in the viewfinder than it is in the mirror. In the mirror, it's still a little deep for my face. Like it's okay, but I probably should have gone a lighter shade, but I am never the lightest shade in a range, ever. If you're super fair, I don't know that this is gonna be the product for you. I'll just put it that way. Okay, let's move on to concealer and we'll answer another question. So the concealer that I have here is from Maybelline. This is the Superstay Activewear, and I have this in shade 15. Somebody wants me to get in trouble because they're asking, are there any pet peeves that you'd like to vent about today? Oh gosh, I feel like there's at least 6 of them that I can vent about on any given day, but let's not go for the low-hanging fruit. If you want to see that, you can head over to my community page. I know a lot of you have seen that. Some people had some very strong opinions on it. That is okay. That is completely okay. We don't have to agree on things, but I, just like you, are allowed to express my opinion. So let's not go for the low-hanging fruit at this moment. Let's talk about more in general. The one that consistently okay, there's a couple that consistently annoy me, but one that really does is when people don't cut their tailor tacks. Just cut the tailor tacks. If you don't know what a tailor tack is, you've probably inadvertently been annoying me. You know when you buy like a blazer, suit jacket, skirts and dresses often have them, especially where they have like a little kick pleat at the back, the little slit, and there's like that little X of thread holding them together. Cut that, cut it. It's called a tailor tack. It's just meant to like hold the product in place or the garment in place while it's in transit, while it's in the store, and while it's going home to you. It's not meant to stay there. So cut that, please. Your garment will hang much better, it'll look much better on you, and it won't annoy me. I see it all the time. Well, I haven't actually been to physical court in 2 years at this point, so I haven't seen it in at least 2 years, but the number of lawyers that I see wandering around with their tailor tacks done up. I'm like, what are you doing? Your blazer doesn't fit properly when that's done up. So that is one of them. And then another one is just people who don't signal. Like, you know you're gonna turn. You know you aren't. You know where you're going. I don't know where you're going, but you do. Let me know, especially when I'm barreling up behind you. So just flick. It's a standard feature in a car, is a flicker thing. So just flick it. And I'm sure there's others that could just really set my teeth on edge, but I think 2 suffices. I'm gonna go ahead and just quickly powder the concealer and the tinted moisturizer into place, just using the translucent setting powder from Laura Mercier. Not a new product to me, but it is a new package. I just opened it today. And while I'm doing that, let's see, what's another question here? Is there anywhere else in the world that you would love to live? Absolutely. If you are new here or just aren't aware, I live in Ontario, Canada. I am about an hour north of Toronto. And if I could live anywhere else, at least from the places that I have visited so far, it would be British Columbia. Not necessarily like downtown Vancouver, but like Squamish type area, someplace where you have the mountains and the ocean. Like, that is just the perfect combo for me. If I had to choose one over the other, mountains over ocean, but just somewhere where you're just so in tune with nature. All right, and then Anne Marie asks, what is your favorite nail polish brand? So I brought some of them out. I'm not a big nail polish connoisseur. I used to paint my nails all the time, and then I had 2 children, and who has time for that? So most of the time you just don't even see me with any nail polish on because I just cannot be bothered. But one that I really do enjoy are the ones from Revlon. These are the Ultra HD Snaps. I've got a few of them. What I really like about them is that they just dry really quickly and they do last a fair amount of time. I have not come across a nail polish, like a traditional nail polish, that doesn't chip on me within at least maybe 2 days. But these ones hold up pretty darn well. And they've got a nice little like brush on them. Sometimes the brushes are just way too wide. Sometimes they're way too thin. This one's perfect for my size of nails. And like I said, they just dry really quickly as well. So I like them because they're very opaque. They dry quickly. They're not very expensive. I think you can get them for about $7 Canadian per bottle. They go on sale all the time. So that's the one that I'm really enjoying the most at the moment. You know what, if I haven't already addressed this elephant in the room, my hair is a disaster today. Like I have a dye job coming up in a few days and the gray is driving me nuts. Like absolutely, it's just taking over. So I've been resisting the urge to box dye it because I have this appointment coming up, but my goodness, Wednesday can't get here fast enough. I just need this taken care of. And then I don't know what's going on. I'm at a loss, but it is what it is. And I thought I would just sit down and do this video anyways. So here we are. Moving on to cheek products. I'm going to use all products from Makeup by Mario. So I've got his bronzer here in the shade Light Medium. The problem with this one, I just have to re-glue it because it came with this not attached. So I'll just glue that at some point. We've got his blush here in Desert Rose, just a very pretty rose tone. And then highlighter here in Pearl, just a really pretty white gold kind of shade. Okay, so the next question is, what are your thoughts on returning makeup? Which I know can be a bit controversial, and if you're not from, at least from Canada, and I believe you can do it in the States as well, you might not even have the option to return makeup, but here where I live, we can return makeup, we can return hair care products, we can return skincare products. There's usually, like, each store has their own window in which you can return them. It's usually about 30 days or so, but you can return them whether you've used them or not, so they don't have to be unopened. So there's definitely pros and cons to that. I mean, in a world where there are so many online retailers now, it is obviously very difficult to shade match correctly online, especially some sites like Shoppers Drug Mart don't have very good swatch comparison pictures, nor do they describe the shade. So when I shop from them, I usually have to bring up the site of the actual brand so that I can read the description to really figure out what shade is likely to be best for me. So I will say I do return makeup. I wouldn't say that I return it frequently, but I will return makeup, but only when it has like thoroughly disappointed me to the point where I just can't work with it, or if I have bought a shade that is completely unworkable for me. So something like this one here from L'Oreal, I can make it work, so it's not worth it to me to return it. I will keep it, I will use it. It'll be good in summer, but if it was like 3 shades darker, I'm gonna return it. Especially L'Oreal prices are really getting up there. I think this was $21 Canadian. Like, we're edging into Sephora brand level pricing. So what I'll say is that I will return makeup, especially if it's like a really pricey item that is just not working out for me. I don't have the size of channel where I can drop $100 on something and know that I'm going to make that money back in AdSense. So it is sort of an investment into my own content. What I don't do though is I don't buy makeup with the idea of, okay, I'm going to buy this, do my video, and then return it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't just buy things already planning to return it. When I buy makeup, I buy it because I want to try it. I want to share my thoughts on it with you, surely, but I don't just buy everything that comes out. I only buy the stuff that I'm interested in as well. So I don't know if anybody does that, just buys stuff and then already plans to, I don't know, but I certainly don't. So I don't know if that's really answering the question. I see the benefit for returning. I do think that there is some incentive for the brand to put out the highest quality that they can if there are returns available to consumers. But at the same time, it can lead to a lot of waste because they can't just like repackage that and resell it. Even if it's unopened, especially in today's day and age of heightened hygiene awareness and all that, even if it's unopened, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that brands are still just throwing it back out. So I assume that they build that right into their profit margins, but I don't like to return makeup, but I will. We'll put it that way. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments, so feel free. Let's have a little dialogue about that. What do you think the pros are? What do you think the cons are? I wonder if people return a lot of a product, does the brand take notice of that and realize that they need to retweak that? Or do they just see all the sales and they just use that number to continue generating? Like, I don't know, but I'd be curious to curious to hear your thoughts on it and interested in having a conversation on it. So put your comments down below, please. The next question is, what 3 words would each family member use to describe me? So I texted Barry, he's at the office right now, so I texted him to ask him what 3 words, but I haven't read his response yet. Has he even responded? Ooh, I do have a text message. That's probably him. Well, before I open it, I'm gonna guess. Kids aren't here right now, they're currently in school, so what I'll do is I will put everybody's answer across the bottom, but I'm gonna guess as to what I think they might say. So Barry, he'll probably say that I'm funny. He'll probably say something really flattering, like I'm pretty or I'm sexy or something like that. And he'll probably say that I'm smart. Will he say that I'm smart or that I'm kind? He'll probably say that I'm smart. We'll put it that way. And then with Aspen, she'll probably say that I'm fun or funny, one of those two, that I'm nice, and that oh gosh, this is harder than I thought, and that probably say something like you're tired, because that's, I always complain about being tired. And then Bennett, oh my goodness, Bennett's only 4, so what is Bennett gonna say? If he could think of 3 words for me, I don't know that I can get him to answer that, to be honest. He'll probably say that I'm mummy. He'll probably say that I'm a girl. And then he'll probably say something like chicken nugget, like something like that. It'll be completely off topic. So when I texted Barry, I asked him what 3 words he would use to describe me, and I asked him what he thought the kids would say. So let's see, because I'm curious to read his responses. So he said that he would describe me, I think I nailed all 3. Beautiful, intelligent, and funny. I think I got all 3 of those. He thinks Aspen will say that I'm smart, fun, and artistic. I don't know if she'll say that I'm artistic. We'll see. And then Bennett will probably say that I'm fun, beautiful, and chicken nugget. We know our kids so well. Okay, finishing powder. We're gonna go in with this one here from Jouer. This is the Soft Focus Hydrate and Set powder. And I'm gonna use my Dior face brush to apply that. Let's just pick some of that up. I'll say, now that I've got all these other powders on, that L'Oreal product is looking much nicer. And this concealer is doing a great job as well. It's not, there's no creasing, there's nothing going on that I don't want going on. I got some winners from the drugstore here. Well, at least the concealer. The tinted moisturizer looks really nice on the skin, but I'm still not convinced about the shade. I'll stop harping about it, but here we are. All right, brows, could go in with the e.l.f. Wow Brow in deep brown. I just really like this. I have one from Dior, and then I have this one, and there's like a $35 price gap between. I like this one better, to be honest. I don't know. My brows don't need a ton of help to begin with, so maybe if I was like really struggling in that department, I might have stronger feelings, but this one gets the job done for me. So while we're doing that, what are the best makeup tips you've learned since being on YouTube? Oh gosh. Well, before I even discovered YouTube, I had no idea how to like shade match. I had no idea what contour was, bronzing. I had no idea. I didn't even know that there was a thing as a bronzing powder. Like I just thought people got a deeper foundation shade than what they wore, truly. So the basics, I think, are the absolute best tips. I mean, I love watching, I don't watch them often, but when I do, I love watching people make these like really intricate crease cuts and just like really create art with their makeup. I don't have that skill set. Even if I sat and practiced forever, I just don't think that I would ever become that artistic about it. But I love watching it. But I would say all of the makeup tips that I've learned just regarding basics. But to give a bit more of a specific answer than that, watching tutorials on how to do winged liner on hooded eyes in specific has been a game changer for me, because I've struggled with that for so long because I do have hooded eyes, but I watch all these people just draw their line and draw it in and blah, and it looks beautiful, and then I do it and I'm like, but where is it? Like it just is this little tiny scraggly line out here that doesn't look like a wing. It just looks like some random line. But watching those tutorials taught me so much, and I am forever indebted to the creators who have shared those tips. All right, now I'm going to move on to priming my eyelids. I'm going to use the Fenty Pro Filter eyeshadow primer to do that, and then I will just use the powder that's left over on my concealer setting brush to set the primer. And while we're doing that, let's take a look at one of the questions is, why don't you do lives anymore? So I have started doing them again pretty much weekly now to talk about new makeup releases, because I always enjoy doing those videos, but I don't enjoy the process of editing them because they are a beast to do. But also I really enjoy doing those as a live, because then I get to hear other people's feedback and hear your perspective on it as well, and that can often change my mind or show me a different aspect to a new product that I might not have thought of myself. So I have been enjoying that, but I will say, generally speaking, lives just make me very, very nervous, and I find them hard to schedule because I could sit down today and be like, I'm feeling good, let's go ahead, we'll schedule the live for Sunday, we'll do it, it'll be great. But then Sunday rolls around, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I can't predict how my mood is going to be. So I do find them hard to fully commit to. And they just make me nervous. I don't know why. All right, so when I posted about doing a Get Ready With Me question and answer video, I asked which palette you guys wanted to see me use, and the vast majority of you said the Dollhouse from Blend Bunny. This one took a bit of a circuitous route, and it actually got stuck in England, bizarrely enough, for a while, and then made its way to me. So shipping took about a month on this one. I was in contact with the brand owner, especially when I saw that it had been stuck in England for like 2 weeks. She was amazing. Like, the customer service at Blend Bunny, beyond reproach. Like, she got back to me, she's like, I'm so sorry, it's out of our hands. And then I'd seen the disclaimer after I emailed and was like, I'm an idiot, I'm so sorry, I know it's not under your control, my bad, sorry. And she's like, no problems at all, this and that and the other thing, I'll keep an eye on the tracking and all, like, and we just went back and forth a few times, and she was just so wonderful to deal with. That forever loyal fan right here. Well, it's hard to say forever in today's world, but as of this point, dedicated fan right here. Anyways, here is the palette. I have not used it yet, so this is very much a first impressions, but I do have her other 2 palettes and they are beautiful. So I'm very excited to play with this one. I do not know at all what I'm going to do, but I want to play with the plum. You know what? I'm going to keep life simple for myself. I want to play with the plums. I'm just going to use this row right here. And we'll start off with the shade Baby Doll and throw that into the crease. So the next question is, how did I learn to do, well, the question was actually, how did you learn to do makeup so well? I'm going to truncate that to how did you learn to do makeup, because well is in the eye of the beholder, but YouTube. That is 100%. I give credit to the creators on YouTube, especially from like circa 2012 and on. That's when I really discovered it and haven't looked back yet. And now with like reels and things like that on Instagram, you can see a lot of, like, I get a lot of inspiration from there, but actually learning how to do it, mainly YouTube. And as well, just practice, trial and error, figuring out my eye shape and what works for my eye shape, because what works for me doesn't work for other people. What works for them doesn't necessarily work for me. Like I said, I enjoy watching like super intricate cut creases being made, but I'm not, just anatomically not really designed for it. So it's not really something I ever really do, and I just honestly don't have the patience for it either. So I lost my train of thought, but at any rate, YouTube. And then just doing it over and over and over and over again, and just playing and testing different colors together, testing different brushes and techniques, all that kind of stuff. Just have fun with it. At the end of the day, if you hate it, you can wash it off. Nobody's the wiser. To piggyback on that question though, somebody asked, what was the first makeup look you loved doing, / what was your signature look? And I did not wear makeup for the longest time. So I've had requests in the past, like, do the, like, what makeup you wore in high school, like recreate your high school makeup. And I'm like, I never wore makeup in high school. Like, that wasn't a thing. And even into undergrad, like, I didn't wear makeup to class. Like, we wore hoodies and hospital pants with the name of our university across the bum. Like, that was the height of style at that point. So I just never bothered with makeup. But when I got to law school, I would every now and then try to put in a bit of an effort. And I had this, I can't remember if it was a 6-pan or an 8-pan palette from probably Claire's Accessories, if I'm being perfectly honest. And it was a bunch of blues, and I would just take like the brightest turquoise and just go right over the lid. That was it. Some mascara. That was my makeup. So if we can call that a signature look, that was it. But I mean, the shape that I'm creating now, I would say is, I don't know that it's my signature, but it's definitely my go-to. Lighter shade in the transition, mid-tone shade as you see me applying it now. Put a deeper shade out in the very corner and under the lower lash line, and then something sort of shiny, typically on the inner portion of the lid. Just change up the colors, and I've just got the basic skeleton right there. So that has become my go-to. But I wouldn't say that I have like a signature look per se. This just happens to work for my eye shape, and then I just worry about the colors. I don't really have to think too much about how to structure it because this is what flatters my eye shape. I'm going to go into that deep plum shade now called Plum. And I know from experience that I just have to pick up like the tiniest bit. I literally just tapped in once. There's no excess to tap off because these don't kick up a ton in the pan, but we're just gonna go in with a very little bit and start building that up because these are very pigmented shades. And I just want to go a little bit at a time so that it's not more work than it needs to be. So while we're building that shade up, let's dive back into the questions. One of them is, what's one thing that can make a rough day instantly better? Wine? Okay, so the cheesy answer, my family, a hug from the kids, from Barry, all of that kind of thing can obviously help immensely, but sometimes they're the cause of the rough day, if I'm being perfectly honest. So especially with like when the kids were home, like being virtual learning from home and all that, it was just like, I need a break. So the one thing that can usually lift my mood without fail is just soaking in a hot tub. And Barry, bless his heart, knows how much I love that and crave that. And when I have a particularly rough day, what I truly appreciate is when he comes up to me with a glass of wine in hand and he's like, the tub is running, go upstairs. I love that. He will never know how much I appreciate that because it just removes the element of guilt. I know some people might hear that and be like, he's telling you what to do. No, I appreciate it so much. And he just knows me so well. All right, I'm just gonna go back in with a bit of that mid-toned plummy shade and just blend this darkness out. But my God, I love these shadows so much. All right, the next question is there a brand I wouldn't work with and why? And there are a couple that come to mind. So one would be Morphe. I just don't feel like we share the same values. Same with Jeffree Star. Just not a brand that I want to align myself with. And then for a totally different reason, Colourpop. I would be very reluctant to do like a collab palette with them. I mean, let's be honest, that's never going to be on the table. But if it was, I would be very reluctant to do it simply because of how quickly they release things. I feel it would be really difficult to make a palette with them that would actually stand out from the rest. But just as soon as it was released, I feel like there would be something else nipping at its heels. So any palette that I put out with them would just be swallowed up by the machine that is Colourpop. And if I'm going to do a collab, I would rather have it stand on its own legs for a little bit, just so that I can revel in the excitement of it, to be honest. So it's just, that's my reasoning for not wanting to work with Colourpop. I'm sure there are other brands as well. brands that have particularly questionable histories, things of that sort. It's just not something that I want to align myself with, but there are definitely a ton of brands out there that I would love to work with. Like, hey, Blend Bunny, oh my goodness, can we do something? Because this is so beautiful. Oh my God, I've only used 3 shadows so far in this entire palette, and I'm already like, I love you. There we go. So anyways, that's the short and long of that one. So the next question is, if I could only purchase from one brand, what would it be? I need to think about that. I'm trying to think of brands that cover the gamut, that have complexion products, cheek products, and shadows. I feel like Makeup Forever is very consistent in what they do. I don't find that they're like the most exciting brand, but if I could only buy from one brand, I know that they cover the entire gamut. I know that their products work well for me, and I do know that they have quite the range as well. So I guess that brings us to Makeup Forever. Who would you pick? What if you could only have one brand for all of your makeup needs, which brand would it be? I have the feeling that this is one of those questions that once I start reading everybody else's answers, I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I changed my answer. I think that gives us time for one more question, which is, how old were you when you had your first celebrity crush, male and female, and who was it? So, I'm trying to think. My first celebrity crush, I would say, was Jonathan Brandis in Ladybugs. And also in, what the hell was that show? Was it called? No, the dolphin was Darwin. Seagate? Sequest. Sequest? Sequest. Now it just sounds like I'm saying Seacrest wrong, but Sequest, I think is what it was called, right? I had the guy, Schroeder? Roy Schroeder? Schreider? Schneid? What the guy from Jaws. What the hell is his name? He was in it too. That is literally all I remember about the show, but I do remember Jonathan Brandis, R.I.P., and I had the biggest crush on him. And then my first female celebrity crush, I'm trying to think. Ruby Rose immediately pops to mind, but I'm sure there were female crushes before her. Like Britney Spears, for sure. And like the stronger age. Stronger and Slave for You in that era. So I would have been about 20, 21, somewhere around there. I think that's it. I think, yeah, that's final answer. There it is. Bloody hell. All right, I have the feeling that this has been a very lengthy video, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. But before I do, I'm just gonna spotlight some of the standout products that I tried today. So first up, there is the Maybelline Concealer. I'm really liking the coverage that it's giving. I'm loving that it isn't settling into those fine lines, blended out really nicely. I'm really impressed so far. As well, the blush from Makeup by Mario. I just really like how buildable it is, how blendable it is, and I really like how natural this particular shade is. And then most definitely the star of the show would be the Dollhouse palette. I'm losing my voice. There we go. The Dollhouse palette. Granted, I've only used one column of shades, but having used her other 2 palettes, and just from what I've experienced so far today, I have no doubt that the rest of this palette is going to blow my mind as well. Her matte shadow formula is just sublime. I'm very, very happy. So thank you again for sending in some questions. Again, I'd love to hear your responses to any of these questions down in the comments below. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.